Tuesday, 1st of December already. The heck did the year go, huh? Wow. All right. That also means that, we've had Black Friday, we've had Buy Local Saturday, we've had Cyber Monday, so it must mean it's Giving Tuesday. Well, what is that about? Let's find out. Chris Sargent is back, Chief Operating Officer at the United Way of the Kalamazoo and Battle Creek region. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Richard.
And also here today is Ben Nyhoff with the HandsOn Battle Creek folks. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
So thanks for the time today. Pardon me. And so here, what is Giving Tuesday? Let's start there, I suppose. It would make sense.
Yeah, sure.
Huh?
That's a good place to start. It's actually a day that 87% of listeners don't know anything about.
Yeah, I bet not.
Yeah,
not.
So Giving Tuesday actually started in 2012. Started by a number of national nonprofit organizations, including United Way.
Huh.
And it was a day to kind of celebrate back to what 75% of the people that do know about Giving Tuesday believe for the holidays, and that is that we really should give back to our community. That's what the holidays are all about. That's what the spirit of the holidays and our passions are all about. So it's warmer today because people's hearts are being shared. It's about engaging with nonprofits, engaging in a giving way, philanthropically, if people so choose, but also about volunteerism and getting engaged, personally and actively.
3 years this has been going on, and still 80-some% of us don't know about it.
Right.
Work to do, don't we?
Well, I think, if you're like me, a lot of us went out and spent a lot over the last few days.
Yeah.
Those 3 holidays were important to, our capitalistic mindset and, getting good gifts and things like that, getting the deals. And so now it's about a reflection back into what matters in our community and how can we make a difference.
Speaking of that, before we go much further, let's just give a campaign update, if you don't mind. Where are we here with the United Way campaign so far?
Well, the great news is we're over 10 million, actually almost 10.5 million. And so we're really excited about that. We've had some really great local campaigns and key organizations like the Kellogg Company and Denso Manufacturing. City of Battle Creek challenged their peers at the City of Kalamazoo this year in terms of increasing participation. City of Battle Creek won. We all win when those two challenge each other, but we've had a lot of great campaigns and thousands of donors individually and hundreds of companies that have stepped up again this year to support us.
All right, so make the connection for us between United Way and HandsOn Battle Creek, if you would.
Yeah, so HandsOn Battle Creek is actually a part of United Way. It's a program of United Way. It used to be its own nonprofit organization, but just a few years ago made the decision that because most of our mission and our work is tied together, so for us at United Way, it is about raising, $13+ million in the region, but it's also about giving people an opportunity to give back of their time. So volunteering and getting engaged, and HandsOn Battle Creek has been a lead in that in this community for dozens of years. And so it just made sense to bring the organizations together, streamline, be more efficient with the resources that donors give to us, but also directly connect people's ability to give and to volunteer.
So the connection is starting to become clear, Ben, but and the name sort of infers it already, but tell us your mission.
Absolutely. Our mission at HandsOn Battle Creek, which is the volunteer center in our community, is to mobilize volunteers and really connect them with the information that they need, the opportunities that are available, because there is a really incredible variety, things that are once a year, once a month, ongoing, and things that require a variety of different skill sets and experience. And so we try to bridge that gap for people, get them connected and plugged in with their time.
I was about to say, there might be at least 1 or 2 volunteer opportunities out there right now.
You might have heard of some.
Yeah. This is a massive coordination.
It takes a lot of time and effort to pull all of our partners together, make sure everyone has the right information that they need, and gets connected with the right people.
All right, and we'll continue in this way coming up in just a moment on WBCK 813 Giving Tuesday. WBCK, we're talking about Giving Tuesday. Chris Sargent with the United Way and Ben Nyhoff with HandsOn Battle Creek. We're talking about, a couple of things really. I think the picture you have both painted has to do with financial giving and the giving of time. and skills, I suppose, right?
Yep. Both equally important.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes, quite honestly, people may not have the financial means to give, but their time is equally and critically important to the nonprofit community, and not just to the nonprofit community. We talk a lot about community organizations, nonprofits. Really, this is about helping people and families.
Mm-hmm.
This is about helping kids be more successful in school, making sure that the families have basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, making sure that families are financially stable, and that the entire family unit, adults and children, have high-quality health care and access to it.
So give us some examples, Ben, of some volunteer opportunities, I suppose, that fall into those categories.
Absolutely. Well, your listeners might have heard us speak before about our Reading Buddies program, part of the early grade reading and achievement program here in Battle Creek and across the region. And what we're doing there is engaging volunteers for a simple half an hour each week that go in and read with students at the schools, help them practice some of the skills that they're learning with their teachers. And it's proven as one of the main stepping stones towards helping students improve their reading proficiency.
Boy, that is a huge thing, isn't it? I mean, you can't drive by a school building now without something on the sign out front that says reading. Or if it's one of those message signs, it'll say, parent-teacher conferences this date, read.
Yeah.
Sporting game this night, read.
Yeah.
Something else on this day, read.
Yeah.
This is such a huge focus, isn't it?
It's the primary foundation. I mean, we know that kids that are reading proficient by the end of third grade are 4 times more likely to graduate from high school on time. So that sets them up for their future success and their future growth. And all of our volunteer engagement experiences really help support children and families that way. And so when you get in touch with HandsOn Battle Creek, when you go through United Way, changethestory.org, that's really the opportunity for people to get engaged. And I was reading a recent article last week that was talking about the trends nationally for how people view philanthropy or getting engaged in their local community. And actually, quite surprisingly, and a bit unfortunately, only 1 in 5 people in the United States believe that engaging in their community by supporting nonprofits matters. And that trend is down 10 points in the last 8 years. So that's going in the wrong direction on a national level. I can tell you, and I'm sure Ben would echo this, when we're working in this community in Battle Creek and across this region, that's not true here.
Yeah.
People here are very engaged, they're very philanthropic, and they give a lot of their time.
What do you suppose accounts for that? 1 in 5 in other places. We're just too consumed with life? Or
I think life's busy, so when we talk about volunteer engagement and those opportunities, we are looking for ways that people can do it once a year or once a week or somewhere in between, creating the opportunities that work most for people to be convenient. We're talking about getting families engaged together. A lot of times it's all about adult volunteerism, and we're talking about also the family engagement. But quite honestly, I think life is busy. It's a faster pace. We all feel it. We have emails. We have, Facebook updates and all those types of things that consume our time. But the reality is we are all very generous in this community, in this region. And so we buck that trend. We're different than that national trend, most definitely. But I think it also has taken some time out and saying what matters most to each of us and getting connected to our passion and our interest in that way.
Well, and you probably studied it even a little informally, maybe, Ben, the notion about what pushes people's buttons to volunteer. Is it some kind of a tradition? Is it some kind of an event? Is it some kind of a family connection? What does it?
I think a little bit of everything, and the thing that presses individuals' buttons is going to be different for them each time. One example, though, is the holiday season. This time of year, a lot of individuals are, coming off of the past weekend, thinking about the holidays, more about that. But the purpose of today, Giving Tuesday, is to start that traditional holiday feeling of, well, I can also give back. And so if you get involved one time, I think, the ball starts rolling and you see how important that is and how meaningful that is, and that encourages people to keep going.
Do people have maybe a misinterpretation about how much time it really takes to be a volunteer? They think, oh, boy, I'm going to have to do this for hours and hours and hours. It really isn't that way, is it?
I think so, and you're right that it doesn't have to be. There's opportunities that are not very time intensive. And when you think about it, the ones that sound time intensive at the beginning, like a half hour each week, it goes by so fast. And I hardly meet a volunteer that regrets giving of time once they've done it.
There's a reward there that is tangible, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, particularly if you're reading to somebody or you have a passion about whatever it is that you're doing that feeds a certain mission you believe in, that sort of thing makes a difference.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk more about that in just a moment on WBCK 8:20 on Tuesday. Chris Sargent is back with us from the United Way, and Ben Nyhoff this time around from HandsOn Battle Creek. Now, we've done some chatting about what it might be like to be a volunteer to help. Now, let's turn it around and talk about folks in the community who may avail themselves of that help. We've talked in the past, Chris, about what's known as ALICE. Let's remind folks what that means.
Yeah, it's an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed, and the easiest way to put that is working families.
Yeah, folks who are working but still struggling.
Yeah, and when you look at, so the poverty rate in this community is 17%. When you add that to the ALICE population, those sitting just above poverty but struggling to make ends meet, not building assets, one crisis away, the car breaks down, they lose the job, those types of things that can put them back in poverty, that's over 29% of our population. So together, over 45% of our population is struggling on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis to make ends meet, or in some cases not. And so that's the need that's out there. And I guess the question that I think we have to ask ourselves when that's happening in our community is, do we want to do something about it? And I think the answer anytime we ask anybody connected in this community is absolutely. We don't want that to be our future for our children. When you look at the statistics for kids, in the last 10 years, the population of children in poverty has nearly doubled. When you break it down by race, what we find is, so 1 in 4 Caucasian kids, white kids, are living in poverty. Nearly 1 in 3 Hispanic Latino kids, and nearly 1 in 2 African American kids. This is our community, right? This is personal, and we've got to do something about that. And the way to do something about that is to get engaged with the community. Give of your financial resources. Every dollar counts. Give of your time. Get engaged and volunteer. Because we know when we're doing that, when we're investing both our resources financially and our time, we're making a significant difference, and we're changing that path and that trajectory together for children in our community.
Now, when you're quoting those stats, are you talking about Battle Creek exclusively? Are we talking about your region entirely?
Both. Actually, those stats mirror each other. So they're pretty close, both by community and across the region, and really by state. So a lot of that data comes from Kids Count. A lot of people are familiar with the Kids Count data that just came out recently for the state of Michigan and every state across the country, where you can really take a look at what's going on and what are the trends. And the trends are pretty sobering in terms of what's really happening in our community. We've got some real bright spots. We're making a difference. We're making impact. We're increasing reading proficiency double digits where we're engaged in a volunteer and a financial way.
Right.
So that's making a difference. So we've got bright spots. It's about building and scaling those across the community and across the region for us.
So how does that translate to HandsOn Battle Creek? I mean, when you hear those numbers, I presume that translates into more need that you see for volunteers, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I believe it mirrors each other completely.
Yeah.
The more need there is in the community, typically the more need we have for hours and time to go into programs that can help bring those things to a better point.
How often are you looking at the programs you have and comparing that to the need that you're recognizing and saying, okay, we need a program that does this or that or the other?
We do that all the time throughout the year. We kind of have constant conversations and evaluations with our partners in the community about what needs to happen, what needs to change, and ongoing.
And I presume that that's a similar statement for the United Way. I mean, you're evaluating that
Absolutely.
all the time too, right?
Yeah, what's effective? I mean, so donors give in a stewardship way resources to United Way and say, figure out how best to invest them to have the greatest impact. We work then with partners to make sure that that's true, and changethestory.org is a great place to go and learn about the success stories that we're having in our focus around education, income, health, and basic needs.
By the way, how do we compare, when you quote those statistics, how do we compare to regions of similar size in the country? Have you had any opportunity to compare that?
Well, what we know is Michigan is still recovering from the recession in 2008, and so we're making good progress, but we still have a little bit further to go than some other states or some other regions who weren't as hampered by the recession. But what we also know is we are one of the most generous giving of resources and time of any region across this country, and we do compare that, especially when you look at our work as United Way and our work within the partners. I mean, we have dozens of nonprofit partners across this community that we can't do this work without. And so when people get engaged and get connected, that's the kind of difference that we're making in this community.
All right, changethestory.org is the website that gives more information on this, and I presume there's a way to reach HandsOn Battle Creek through that portal, right?
Yep, and handsonbc.org is another direct way that people can go and get connected. We challenge people, find an hour this month, find some time today to go online and to support a local nonprofit, including United Way, and together we'll find that this was a great holiday season where we were able to make an impact.
All right, Chris and Ben, thanks to the both of you for your
Thanks,
time
Richard.
today. 8:20.